Okay, so now, warning, this tutorial is definitely for wizards only because it's going to get a little bit complicated, but, if we break it down, it won't be so bad. Okay, I'm going to take it piece by piece in this one because it can be rather complicated. But first, I'd say let's take a look at something. We're using two-point perspective, and we're going to make the box. That's the first thing that we're going to do. And so the box is actually a cube, and we haven't made an actual cube in two-point perspective yet. So here we go. Okay, well, if you remember, in one-point perspective, it was pretty easy to make a cube. Okay, I've got my horizon line, right? And I've got a vanishing point. And at anywhere along the line, I can say, like, well, I'm going to just have the edge of a square, right? So right here, here's my edge of a square. And of course, I'm going to go back to the vanishing point right here, right? So here I've got it on my vanishing point. And draw those edges back. Drawing nice and dark, so that you guys can see it, but, if I was doing a drawing, I would never draw this dark. But in any case, I've got that going back to the vanishing point. Now I just need to know, well, how far back does this edge go, right? Does the back edge go? And that's an easy one. We've talked about field of view. And so we can go to the edge of our field of view, right? Connect it to this corner here, right? And then that would be where this intersects. That's how I know how far to go. And I get a very nice square that way. Very, very believable square in perspective. To turn it into a cube, well, that's pretty easy. I'm going to draw a square. I've just drawn one over here on the side. No problem. Just the same length as this one. So I can go back to the vanishing point here. And here's the back right here. Same level. Same level. I know it is. Heck, I can prove it just by going back to the same vanishing point over here at my field of view, coming down, and you'll see it intersects. So it's right. And when things are pretty close to lining up, then they're right. All right, so if this is this length here, all I had to do was measure it and say, like, okay, here it is. That's how long it is. And just go up that high. And the same thing on the other side. And go across. Back to my vanishing point. And at this corner here, of course, I'll go up and down, and thus completing my cube, as you can see right there. And that was a nice little cube in perspective. Okay. So to do the same thing in two-point perspective is using a lot of the same ideas. In some ways, it's even easier. Now, this looks a little bit complicated. That's just because I've got all my guidelines already drawn out. I'll darken them in. Okay, so first off, let's start with our horizon line. Something like that there. It's rather arbitrary where I put that in. Okay, and so here's my center. And this is pretty much of a measured center. I did that on purpose because I really wanted to make a point. Okay. And I'm going to come down. This was also measured. Right? So it's really very straight. And then here, I'll go back to my vanishing point. Right? And here to my vanishing point. And here, now look at this. If I go from here, and it doesn't matter, this could be anywhere along this line, and I draw a horizontal line parallel to the horizon line, which in this case is parallel to the edge of my paper, right? Just like so. I know that point is going to be correct, that that has to be a square, right? And it will work anywhere on the page. I'll show you why in just a second. Okay, but let's take a look. Right? So if we go like this, from this point back, and from this point back, vanishing point. Okay, you can see that this intersection lines up with this, which lines up with this, right? So we know that that is a correct square right there. It has to be. It has to be. In the same way that this one here would align. We already established that this was a square, right? And if we went through here, see, it would have to be a square. It would have to be. And that's how we, that's the logic there. It would have to be, since it lines up. Now, you know that it doesn't have to be directly in front of you. So let's draw a square over here to the side. So I've just picked an arbitrary point right here. Made it a little bit smaller than the first one, just because that way they both fit on the page easily. And I'm going to go back to the vanishing point. Okay. Now, on the other side, I'll also go back to the vanishing point. Okay. If I draw this horizontally over, right, from here to here, or from here to here, doesn't matter, but as long as that is straight, where that point and that point is, then that's where that square has got to be in this simple two-point perspective. And here, we can prove it. If we were to go back, right, and we would go this way to our vanishing point, okay, there's our square. We think it is, at least. Watch this. If we had this here, we lined it up with our vanishing point here, look where it dissected. Okay, came here through the middle and boom, right to this corner. See? Everything lined up. If it's a square, everything's going to line up just like that. Okay, so that's the square. So if you've got a square, you can now make a cube, right? Okay. So you would think that a cube would just be this distance here, and then bring it on up, draw a diagonal, and that's where your cube would be. But it doesn't work out. Here's what you got to do instead. Okay, you ready? So here's my center vanishing point, right? Here's the edge of my paper. I'm going to take that and make a measurement. That's the measurement from my vanishing point in the center, the edge of my field of view, right? And if I use field of view and field of vision interchangeably, I mean the same thing. Okay. So watch this. I'm going to take this and I'm going to bring it up here. Maybe you'd have a second piece of paper or something. Probably a good idea. But here, just for today, I'm going to draw a little bit on the drawing board. Well, wait a minute. I shouldn't be sharing bad habits with you. Let's do it for real. I've got a second piece of paper. Okay. I'm going to just line that up. This is how I would do it anyways. It's getting lazy. Okay, so I've got that lined up with the edge, nice and straight. Got my measurement right here. We'll bring that up, and I'm going to make a mark on the paper, right? Now, if I go between here and here, diagonally, I know this is kind of a crazy measurement. Now this length here is longer than our first length, isn't it? And if I take that length and I come all the way from our horizon line all the way up to that new point that we just made, all right, up here, and I intersect with my bottom corner down here. Oh, let's bring this into the field of view here. Okay. I'm going to be using this whole thing. Okay. Here's our corner, right? Way down here. And here's our thing way up here. You can't hardly see it. But trust me, it's up there, right? The little dot that we made is way up there. Okay. And I line these things up. Right? From the one all the way up to that one way up there, right? Where that line intersects with this edge right here. If I bring this up, see, that's how high it will be, where those points intersect. That's your cube. Okay, so now it's just a matter of going back to my vanishing points this way. And here's one this way. Another vertical. Back to my vanishing point this way. Okay, and another vertical. And you see, this is my cube. Okay, makes sense? Okay, here's this one over here. We'll just do that real quick. And so, once again, we've got that same measurement, really, as before. Just make sure everything's lined up good. Okay, so I've got this, and I've got, this was where the measurement was all the way to here. Right, so I'm going to make a point way up here. And then I'm going to go all the way from the point that I've got way up there off camera and all the way down to the corner of the box where that line intersects the up and down. That is my cube. Now this cube is going to look smaller. Well, it was a smaller cube. And it's going to look a little bit broader on this one side here, and a little bit sort of narrower here, but, well, of course it is, because it's turned. So yeah, so there's one cube, there's the other cube, both in perspective. And that's how I get this Jack-in-the-Box box right here.